All right, today we have another installment of the Get Spiffy podcast series titled Mobile Service Playbook, where we go inside real world operations. We sit down with fixed ops leaders, general managers, and dealer principals who are actively building and scaling mobile service. It's not about theory, it's about execution. And our goal is simple to take something that a lot of the industry is not aware of and can feel complex and overwhelming before you start, break it down into its component parts and talk about how dealers around the country are making it work. What are the early decisions that matter? What drives profitability? How does mobile service evolve from one truck or one asset into a scalable business that generates gross profits, customer retention, and overall accelerates success at the dealerships? At Spiffy, we have this benefit of being able to see across a whole lot of different operators and different brands, what works and what doesn't, what the decisions they're making to unlock growth. And we're fortunate that a lot of these folks want to share that with the industry at large. Today, one of the biggest unlocks we see is connecting demand directly to the mobile schedule, especially in areas like recall, where there's a large demand on the customer side and from the OEMs, but execution has historically been challenging at the BDC fixed ops level. And that's why I'm super excited about today's conversation. We're joined by Rick Hofer, the service manager at Chalmers Ford in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Chalmers has been ahead of the curve at adopting and growing their mobile service business, and Rick has had a front row seat on that journey, getting it started, growing it, making decisions, and bringing success to the Chalmers dealership. Hey, Rick, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join us today. I think it's always helpful for the audience to hear about your career background and how you ended up at Chalmers, and then how did you end up owning the mobile business there?
Sure. So yeah, happy to be here. So we had, well, my career started in 2008 with automotive, actually getting into parts, working at an AutoZone. Knew nothing about automotive whatsoever. I was a pizza delivery guy for 5 years before that, so I literally knew nothing. And I'm still not a car guy at all, which is kind of funny to be as involved in the industry as I am now. But I needed a better job, so I got into automotive, and I had manager experience. So I went into um, AutoZone, worked there for 4 years, and then I really wanted to start building a career. And I feel like AutoZone wasn't going to be it for me, or parts store in general was probably not going to be where I wanted to land. So I was actually going to become a technician. And then my uncle called me and told me I was going to ruin my health if I did that because he was a tech for 40 years. So he's like, don't do it. He's like, don't be a tech. So go be an advisor at a dealership, work your way up to management, and you'll have a very comfortable and great life that way. And I said, okay. So I went in, became an advisor at a Toyota dealership, worked there for a couple of years and got my feet wet. Moved on to another dealership after that. Stayed there for about 8 years, which was a GMC dealer. And then after that, I was really wanting to get into management. I was not wanting to be an advisor anymore. I was like, I feel like I could do more for a department than just being an advisor. So that's when I took a leap. And unfortunately, it wasn't with that one. So I ended up getting my first manager job with Volkswagen dealership. And I was there for 4 years as a manager. It was going good. And then, I'd wanted to come to Chalmers Ford for a while because I've heard a lot of great things about it. It's also really close to my home, about 5 minutes away. And being that we homeschool at my family, it's nice to go home and lunch and spend time with the kids and everything too. So the opportunity came up to be the quick lane service manager and be in charge of used car recon over here. And I said, well, it seemed like a really good company. It was a good offer, so I took it. Came on, started building up the quick lane department with the team we have here, which we have a really great team, and it's all about the team you have, right? So built that up for a few months, and then my fixed operations manager or director Daryl, he came to me and said, we have mobile, but no one's really kind of driving it over here. We had a mobile advisor at one point, and he was doing a good job in building it up, and then he left, and no one's kind of picked up the reins since he left, unfortunately. And I said, well, we're trying to get more recall work out of the quick lane building, and we're trying to get more warranty work out of it, but maybe we just move the mobile over to quick lane, and that's a good transition. You don't have time to wait for your oil change and recall. How about we schedule you with mobile, and we'll get a mobile appointment out to you? And so we started driving it that way. So it started really small. We had a couple technicians at first, both really good technicians that had been on for a little bit. We had 3 vehicles, so I knew we needed to add another third vehicle on there. So we did that. We added another technician, and then so now we're up to 3. So we went from 2 to 3 within 2 months of me being in charge of it. But at first, the logistics of it was horrible. We had no scheduling tools really. I was just trying to start from ground zero. I've never done mobile before, so I was like, okay, we got to figure out how this works, how we're going to schedule, how we're going to make sure we have the techs going to the right areas. We're not driving across town like crazy or anything like that. So it was. I mean, my hair's already fallen out. It made me want to pull it even more, honestly. But we were able to get through it, and yeah, yeah. We were able to kind of pull through and kind of get it figured out. But it's just grown immensely since then, for sure. So
Hey, so great story, Rick. Interesting. I'm always amazed at the career path of people that get into, car dealerships, and it's like, hey, I want to make a career here, and you find a great owner with a great culture. So I'm excited to hear about that.
mhm.
I tell you, I think for the audience, I think one of the first things we are very insistent about with our new customers is you got to have somebody who owns the success of mobile in the dealership. You know, it could be a director of fixed ops, it could be a manager, it could be a service advisor, but like somebody has to show up on Monday morning at 7 a.m. and like it's my job to make this successful. And it
Right.
needs to be for the most part like they can do some other stuff when you get started when you have one or two vans, but like it's gonna grow. You need to have someone who's like whose mission it is to grow, right?
Yeah. No,
Um,
for sure.
and so how does Chalmers measure success, or how do you measure success in the mobile business today? Like, what are the metrics you're tracking on a daily basis and a weekly basis? And when you look back at the end of the month, like, how do we
Mhm.
say, we're winning, losing, or sort of treading water?
So I mean, obviously off of gross, like how we're doing on the gross and stuff, but we're also looking at appointments scheduled per day, things like that, and just watching it grow from that. So we when we started, we were lucky to do like 3 appointments per tech a day. And I was like, okay, if we can get to like four, then we were going to start doing a little bit better. And then once we had three techs come on, I had to drop it back down. We were like between 3 and 4 between all three of them. And then it's like, okay, if we can get to five, then I know we're doing really well. So that was like the whole drive is like, let's just make sure we keep increasing the appointment somehow. So that's still our metric that we look at is like, are we getting at least six per tech per day now? That's what we're looking at now is trying to get six per tech per day.
Yeah,
And as soon
nice.
as we start maxing that out, well, then it's time for another vehicle to come in. And so that's
Right.
kind of how we're driving it right now.
Yeah, interesting. Super interesting. So, tell me about the mix of the mobile business. You're a Ford dealer. Is fleet a big part of your mobile business, or is it
Yeah.
consumer, or how's that break out?
So Chalmers, as far as a dealership goes, they are one of the biggest fleet dealers in the country. So we sell all over the country, not just in New Mexico. We're selling police units and construction units and everything else all over the country. So we had before I started, we had a fleet event for mobile where there was 160 cars that had recalls up in I think it was in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken. So we sent the three guys we had at the time, and they sent them up there, and they spent a week up there, and they got all the recalls done in a week. So I mean, the fleet business is a big portion of it. Whenever a new recall comes out, especially if it's like on an F-150 or an F-250, anything that's going to be a big construction fleet vehicle or something like that, or an Explorer, a lot of police interceptors. I mean, most police interceptors in the country are actually Ford driven at this point. So
Right.
um, that is a big portion of it as well. So we'll do a lot of times where a new recall will come out and we'll start contacting the fleet company saying, hey, can we get a list of your VINs if you have anything so we can actually check and see if you have any open recalls that just released on these F-150s? We know you have so many, we drive by it all the time, whatever the case may be. And we'll just try
Right.
to openly outreach to them if we don't already have a contact already. But usually we have a contact just because we sell so many to all of them, honestly.
Your desk is in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, it's actually technically in Rio Rancho, but just on the outskirts of Albuquerque.
Yeah. Well, for my particular point, you sent three technicians to Oregon, which is
Hmm.
like not close, right? For those of
Right.
you who are geographically challenged, it's a couple of states away. Some
Yeah.
would argue the other side of the country. Well, at least
Yeah.
like closer to Canada than, you know, Mexico, right? And
Yeah.
so,
We've also recently developed we have a lot of contacts now in El Paso, Texas. So
right, which is
we
like
are
4 hours away, right? Like that's like
correct.
not
Yeah.
close either, right?
No. So but we're making a trip down there close to every 2 weeks now. If it's one day or 2 days, just depending on what we have to do down there. But they have 3,000 city units that haven't been done with service in years. So
Yeah.
there's recalls outstanding, and then now we're still trying to break into that maintenance with them. But just showing up and being like, hey, we can get your recalls done for you, and then call us if you need anything else. It's just kind
Right.
of bridging that gap of like contact and go in and kind of get taken care of. So
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so like again, it's so exciting to hear because we talk about that to dealers when they like, well, why should I do mobile, right? There's all kinds of reasons. And I'm
there's a
like,
lot
look,
of
it just takes,
objections.
yeah, well, there's a lot, there's you can expand your service area right now. And some people they talk about, your PMA, hey, we're gonna, our PMA is 10 miles and we want to go to 20. And in your case, our PMA is Albuquerque and we want to go to, you know, Oregon, which is
Yeah,
awesome, right?
we're in
Which is
active
awesome.
discussions. Yeah, we're in active discussions right now to actually hire a mobile tech that is located in a different state, so we can actually just go down there and take care of stuff in a different state of moving. So we're actively looking at that right now.
Awesome. Hey, well, look, let's throw it to Addison. Addison uh, Addison-Lessing is a director of partner and customer success at Spiffy, and his team. Once someone like Rick decides we're going to buy Spiffy products, primarily our software, Addison's team configures it for the dealership, manages the DMS integration, and then works with Rick and his team to make sure that the strategy and the success criteria that are important to them on day one is what we're setting up the system for, and then training his team on how to use immediately. The software is so big and I mean, there's a lot of things we can do for a dealer. It's critically important to say on day one when we have trucks, we want to do recalls, do oil change, take services out of the bay. Whatever the immediate objective is, that's Addison's job to help make that into reality for the dealer and help them through that, through training and configuration, all sorts of things. So Addison, why don't you ask Rick some questions? I know you have an intimate knowledge of his business and how you've been helping those guys become successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Karl, thanks so much for the intro. Again, my name's Addison Lessing, Director of Partner Success here at Spiffy. Rick, I loved first off hearing about your backstory about how you got into automotive. I have similar but like different. It was funny. I started with Spiffy as a technician myself and very quickly realized that I wanted to be sitting at a desk. And so I very quickly made that transition early on. And you're probably familiar with working with Adam, one of success managers on my team,
Mhm.
who got you onto this call. I want to ask you because you said something earlier that really, kind of sparked something in my mind here. You mentioned, you stepped into this, you guys were already kind of doing mobile. There's not really a lot kind of, managing it and growing it. I'm curious, how did you, when you sort of first stepped in there, how did you first start handling the scheduling and routing earlier on? And what challenges did you run into there?
Um, so there was a lot of challenges because I didn't have an advisor for it either. So I was literally doing both for the guys. So it was hard at first because we were just trying to schedule whatever we could to try and make sure the guys were busy every day. But also it was hard because if you don't have the right infrastructure to actually do it correctly, you're constantly looking at zip codes, how far away it is to the next appointment, so you're not dragging time, so you're not causing customer delays. And it was a lot. Like I said, my hair was losing already, and then it caused it to lose more because of all that. Like it was a lot of stress and a lot of overwhelming pressure on, like, okay, well, I said I'm going to do this, so I got to make sure I do it. But man, the logistics of it was very, very complicated at first, just trying to figure out how to make it run smoothly and how to make sure these guys were getting fed and making sure they're getting money that they need to be making off of their tickets. I'm a big believer that everyone should come to work to make money. So I don't want anyone to feel like they're coming to work and they're just doing nothing. So I constantly was trying to push stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, like there was times where it's like, man, I can't get enough mobile points for this day. Hey, I've got pre-delivery inspections over here too, and we're the biggest fleet, one of the biggest fleets in the country. So we have hundreds of cars coming a month. We typically do anywhere from 400 to 500 cars a month at BDI. So like I was like, well, I'll keep you busy with that at least while I'm trying to figure out mobile and get everything scheduled for you guys. So it was a lot of complex thinking, organizing, and just off the cuff. Like I have one technician that was like, well, I'll just check these lots for you online and just see if I can find any call for you, and we'll go and introduce myself. I was like, great, let's do that. We'll schedule that. And so we would do things like that just to try and get something to get it motivated and get it going. And it finally caught on, which was great. But yeah, it was hard at first for sure.
Yeah, I, certainly relate there. And, you touched on the technicians and, we have a lot of conversations around, technicians out of the shop who are very accustomed to their flat rate and flagging their hours. and like being super nervous about going into the mobile side, worrying they're not going to get those same hours, or that their pay plans are going to get, impacted. How did you
Right.
go about early on in, staffing, mobile? It sounds like you had a couple already over there that you were working with, but sort of from where you started and kind of through the time that you've been there, have you gone about actually staffing your technicians on mobile? What are some of the things you look for, and what kind of, in your mind, makes a good mobile technician?
They have to be customer oriented, and they have to be able to be customer facing. So that's the 100% biggest thing. If they can't talk to people and they can't treat people with customer satisfaction that everyone's looking for, they pretty much have to be a blend of an advisor and a technician. They really do. Like they have to have that type of sense of like, I'm going to take care of you, and the customer has to know that. And it can't just be a grunt out of the shop that doesn't say anything and normally throws wrenches across the shop, right? You just can't have that person on a mobile team. It just doesn't work, unfortunately. So there is a challenge in it. And so my interview process, I typically am looking for a technician that's willing to be customer facing. So we'll usually put that like in the job ad for us. Like we looking for a mobile technician. This will be a customer facing job. You have to have skills, and you have to have customer service skills. You have to be able to do conflict resolution. Like those questions have come up in interviewing, things like that. Because if you're on the fly, like, yeah, you can just say, I'll call my manager, and that's fine. You can do that, right? But if you can fix the situation and not involve the manager all the time, that's a better solution for the company overall, because then the customer feels like they're being taken care of without having to get other people involved to fix it, right? So those are things that I look for when I'm talking to people for mobile technician positions. So, for instance, I had a technician, the third spot that we were missing when I first took over. I was looking for somebody. I wasn't sure who I was going to find. I was in the very early stages of interviewing, and I had a technician that I called from Volkswagen, which I wasn't calling for a job. I was just calling to see how he was doing. He was a great tech. I liked working with him. He was pretty much a master tech with Volkswagen, so I wasn't trying to get him for mobile because technically that's not a spot that most techs want to take for mobile. But I called him and he said he was just getting so burnt out. He's like, "Do you have anything available?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm looking for a mobile tech." And he was really personal with customers when I worked with Volkswagen, so I knew he would be kind of a shoe in with that. And so he's like, "I'll take it." I said, "It's probably going to be a pay cut because we're not paying the master tech, rate for that." He's like, "It's okay. I need a break. I need to do something that's just going to be better for my family and everything." I was like, "Okay, well, we'll get you in." So we got him in, and I think he's actually making more money now at the lesser rates because there's just more consistent jobs and things getting done compared to waiting for all the heavy line work to get done, waiting for all the parts and stuff like that. So there can be a chance to make money in mobile for sure. And you really do have to have the right person. And I mean, if I could show you some of the customer reviews we have for him, they're all very praising of how nice he was and how informative he was and how patient he was. And that's what you're looking for in a mobile tech. So that is that's how you find them. You find people that can be personable with people. You find people that can actually take care of the customers and not just like shrug them off because you're on an appointment. Like, okay, car's fixed. Have a good day. Like, you got to have a personal touch to it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much. We talk so much about CSI and about, how customers experience mobile. And it's so funny, on the mobile side, I don't know if you've experienced as much, in the same way that I've talked to other dealers, like mobile tends to have a significantly higher CSI
Yes.
than, being in the shop. And
Mhm.
a lot of that, you just nailed it, is driven by a customer-facing, friendly technician who can really prevent the customer service issue from happening to begin with by just
Yeah.
having a good conversation and being able to
Yep.
talk a customer without, like you said, without having to call you and say, "Hey, like, can you call this customer back?" If they can get a resolution there on the spot, it prevents that scenario, that situation come up at all.
Yeah.
Um, and that's so great to hear. I would say for anyone, for our audience that's listening, that I would say is the number one most important factor in hiring a mobile technician is someone that can look at a customer, smile, shake hands, and can handle some of the more complex situations. There can be challenging customer situations, and it's hard when you're right in front of them on their own property at their home and stuff. And so,
Agreed.
with the keys to their second most expensive asset, right? It can be really challenging. So that's so incredibly important. And so, talk to me about this is great. I love to hear about the earlier on and sort of your process for getting the right people in the door. When you got started there, you mentioned earlier, you had that mobile program that existed, but your job was really to take that to the next level. What did that operation really look like on that, day one when you stepped in? How many vans, what kind of services were you guys doing in the field? What did that look like for you?
So they were doing mainly recalls, some maintenance, and some diagnosis. Wasn't a ton. but they also weren't like fully certified in like electrical training and things like that. So it's hard to like really like, yeah, go diagnose this, whatever this parasitic dry you got going on in this vehicle at this person's house or on a reservation that we have out here in New Mexico, and you can't figure it out because you're not certified yet, right? So, and you don't have the technical training, or sometimes you do have the technical training, but you don't know how Ford works, or you don't have the manufacturer in general. If you want to speak generically, that was pretty much it. Just
Yeah.
recalls, maintenance. We had three vehicles. One was an oil change vehicle that had never been filled up with oil, so we were just taking oil as needed type of thing. So it was one of those things where we just weren't driving it. Like it's not like we didn't want to do it. We definitely wanted, like Chalmers at a company really wanted to push for it. We've heard of other big Ford dealerships having like 16 vans and stuff, and how it's pretty much its own department generating $200,000 a month off of it, right? So I mean, it's huge, huge like opportunity, and no one here in New Mexico was doing it, especially no Ford dealership was really driving it. So I just saw nothing but opportunity. I saw the same thing when I came in with Quick Lane. That great team here who just weren't driving services like they should be. So we grew that, and then when they saw that, they said, "Well, let's give them mobile and see if we can do something with that." And luckily, we have a great support team here, so everyone's just on board to try and make sure it's successful and growing. And as long as we have an explanation of why we're doing something, they usually don't have a reason not to do it, right? So having that type of support on your management staff and your owners and stuff like that, it's a huge, huge like embodiment to make sure you like want to do good for them and just make it as successful as possible. But
Yeah, you said I think my favorite line so far, which is I saw nothing but opportunity. We
mhm.
work with a lot of dealers who are so early on in the stage, they're in the debate stage of do we want to offer mobile, do we not want to offer mobile? And
Yeah,
I make the argument all the time of, you got to see the forest for the trees, right? Yes, there are complex things involved, there's logistics challenges involved. It's very different than running it out of the fixed shop. But to your point, there's so much opportunity ahead of you. And I look at this in ways of being able to, conquer other markets, of being able to step out of just the shop, bring customers in that maybe have never even seen your dealership before, but you're now able to offer them a service that maybe a competitor wasn't, and
yeah,
that brought them in.
yeah,
So
yeah. And
good.
sorry, I never did mobile before. I had the opportunity when I was with Volkswagen at a different dealership, but the support that I was talking about, I didn't see it from upper management. Like they're gonna put the money into it, invest it, let me try and grow it. Because unfortunately, there's growing pains. Like you're not gonna just jump into it and just everything's just, oh my gosh, we're just making buku bucks out of nowhere. Like it takes time, it takes patience to find the right people, the right staffing for it, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that with the Volkswagen one. So I tried. I tried thinking about it and kind of talking about the idea once, and didn't get a lot of flavor of it just because I saw the cost on it, and I was like, I'm just going to let that be. So I never really like thought about how much of an opportunity it was at that time. I knew I could see something, but I didn't know what it could be. And then once you go into an environment that where when the dealership's all ready to go, and actually have all the tools and all the liquidity to try and put into it to say let's make this successful. Let's just give it a shot. That's when you have a driving force that you can actually be successful with for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, and we're talking so much about, your earlier days in getting this moving and really getting this scaled. My question for you is, what's changed the most from the time you started, operationally on your mobile side from, when you jumped in to today? What has changed the most for you? Things that have gotten easier, things that have gotten harder, sort of what's that look like?
Oh well, I mean, I think we're on Spiffy, so we we can say once we got a mobile coordinator with which is my advisor, um, and then once we got Spiffy installed. So once we got that, everything kind of fell into place because we were already building towards something as it was, and it was starting to grow, and it was starting to feel like okay, these puzzle pieces are coming together, and they're not like the corners down here and this is up here. Like everything started to come together well. Then Spiffy came in and kind of was able to organize it even better with like the logistics part of it. So making sure that nothing was getting convoluted with scheduling. One person could be here, another person could be here, and it knows like how long it's going to take to get to the next place. All that stuff started to fall in line, and then we were really able to shoot it up from there. So once we had that program in place, it was able to actually drive it even further. Now, did someone still have to be behind the wheel? Yes. If I'm not sitting here doing it, it's not going to do it by itself. It needed someone to drive it for sure. And I'm not trying to like praise myself or anything like that. We have a team that's been doing it. So, but we needed to drive it. But the software for Spiffy is when it really took off. And I mean, you can look at our numbers from when I took it over in late June till October, I think, is when we really went full fledged with Spiffy. I think it was like September, last week of September into October. Anyway, when that happened, you watch it just go like this the entire time with Spiffy because it has tools that just make the logistics so much easier. So you're not having to focus on, okay, I got to schedule this and I got to make sure this is going here. You don't have to do that. Now I can just focus on building the business. And that's what I was looking for from taking it over. It's like, okay, I can get things kind of rolling a little bit, but I need a sharp incline. And the only way to get that going is to have all the logistics figured out. And that's what Spiffy did. So I mean, I know we're on Spiffy, but that's honestly what drove it. So
Yeah, and for the audience, just as a clarifier, we don't certainly ask for any promotion in these conversations, and we greatly appreciate it anyway, because I do believe that the product speaks a lot for itself and what
yeah,
it is able to allow you to do and manage and execute. But you did say something great here a second ago too. No matter what software platform, you still need, and Karl said it earlier as well, is you still need someone owning and driving the program, someone accountable to the success of it, to make sure that they are leveraging and using the tools like Spiffy, to make sure that they're using it to the best of their advantage, that you're getting the value out of it, and that you're getting ROs on the schedule, because that's what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, is get our ROs on the schedule and get our technicians some work. So
right.
then Rick, I'll close with you for on at least my part for with one last question, which is, if you were talking to a dealer who's just getting into the mobile game, they're starting from scratch, what would you say are like 2 to 3 things they'd need to get right to get them really rolling?
Um, the right people need to be in place. The right tools need to be used, and the right procedures need to be in place. So all those three things have to be there. If that doesn't happen, it's not going to work. It's like you have to have the right people doing it. You have to have the right software, including Spiffy. You because I mean I worked with all those things and to fill them up and so yeah you need all those things for sure. I mean, to make it successful you're going to have those all in place for sure.
Well, awesome stuff, Rick, and great conversations. Again, greatly appreciate you. I'm going to kick it back over to Karl. Karl, go ahead and take us from here. But again, Rick, great speaking with you, sir.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Hey, Rick, one, thanks for being a customer, and two, thanks for taking time out of your day to share with the industry what it takes to be successful at mobile. Rick has given us time, and there's a lot of great nuggets in his success journey. To recap, I think the thing that's it's just obvious to Rick, and he doesn't talk about it because it's just sort of what he goes to work every day. Is they have a great dealership with a great culture, with a management commitment to go be successful, and then they put great people in there, right? So the Chalmers management team says we need to go mobile. That was decision number one. Number two was like, hey, find a great person to run it. Rick and his team. Rick feels that I have to have good technicians. He tells a story about, sort of by happen. Again, some of the best people I found are the same story as Rick with his Volkswagen mechanic. I just check it in on some guy, or I ran into someone somewhere. Met this woman on the street, and she's looking for a position, And so it's like management commitment, great people. And then there's the technology side of it, right? And some of it's van technology and some of it's software technology. That technology, it's interesting. The technology is what gets you from two ROs to five ROs or three to six, right? And then that automation, Rick talks about efficiency. I would call it automation. And it takes service advisors and mechanics. It takes the labor and the coordination that humans are generally bad at, right? And it automates it. And that's what computers are great at. And then it lets good humans go do things that humans are great at, which is like follow up with customers, talk about upsells and cross sells. Hey, we changed your oil when we fix your recall. We notice your tires are fairly worn. You're close to needing new ones. Let us give you some quotes about sort of good, better, best for your tires, and we can get that scheduled for you. Maybe we could do that mobily if the dealership has that capability. But at the end of the day, you take humans with this automation technology, and then you put them in a place where they can be more successful. Dealerships aren't getting rid of employees because of automation. They're making employees more successful. They're making customers happier, and then that there's this flywheel of I touch more cars mobily, I make customers happier, retention goes up, they come back and buy vehicles from me. Rick, like, hey, don't miss the point. He's driving from Albuquerque to El Paso, which is a long way. It's like 4 or 5 hours, 4 hours ish, right?
Yeah,
And
four and a half.
then, yeah, and then if it's sort of like more than 4 hours, he's like, hey, bag your tools and get it on a Southwest flight to Oregon because we got customers up there too.
Oh no, we drove
That's
out there.
Okay, cool. Um, I'm gonna have to tell my guys they have to drive. That's awesome. Um, but that's just like, I mean, imagine going to a fixed ops dealer and saying, hey, your service area is now 4 hours south and 4 states north, right? Um, and so it's so empowering to dealerships who are under assault today from tariffs, competition, imports, all these challenges that land in the franchise dealership's lap on the property. Mobile now becomes a offensive strategy to go do all kinds of great things. And Rick and Chalmers are getting after it like nobody. So, hey, Rick, thanks for your time today. My
Yeah.
name is Karl Murphy, the CEO and co-founder of Get Spiffy. We're here with Addison-Lessing and Rick Hofer from Chalmers Ford in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And this is the Mobile Service Playbook podcast. And we'll see you next week.